Chapter 19. Victor Frankenstein and his friend Henry Clerval were staying in London. They planned to stay there for a few months. Henry was excited to meet smart and talented people in the city. But Victor had a different goal. He wanted to find information that would help him keep the promise he made to create a new creature. He quickly used the introduction letters he brought to meet famous scientists. If Victor had taken this trip during happy times, he would have enjoyed it very much. But now his life felt dark and sad. He visited people only to get the knowledge he needed. He didn't enjoy being with others. Being alone gave him some peace. He enjoyed nature and Henry's kind words. But happy people made him feel worse. He felt cut off from everyone. He remembered William and Justine, who had died, and these memories filled him with pain. Henry reminded Victor of how he used to be, curious and eager to learn. Henry was very interested in the different customs of people in England. He had a dream to travel to India. He believed he could help trade and colonization because he knew many languages. To do this, he needed to stay in Britain for a while. Henry was always busy and full of energy. The only thing that made him sad was Victor's constant sadness. Victor tried to hide his feelings so that Henry could still enjoy the journey. Sometimes Victor stayed behind, saying he had other plans, just so he could be alone. He also started collecting materials to build the new creature. Working on it felt like torture. Every thought about it brought pain. Even talking about it made him shake with fear. After a few months in London, they got a letter from a friend in Scotland who had visited them before in Geneva. He invited them to see the beautiful nature near his home in Perth. Victor also wanted to see mountains and rivers again, even though he didn't enjoy being with people. They had arrived in England in October. Now it was February. They decided to travel north in a month. They didn't want to go straight to Edinburgh. Instead, they planned to visit Windsor, Oxford, Matlock, and the lakes in Cumberland. They hoped to finish this trip by the end of July. Victor packed his science tools and materials and planned to finish his work in a quiet place in the north of Scotland. They left London on March 27th and stayed a few days in Windsor. They enjoyed walking in the big forest. The tall trees and deer were new and interesting to them. Then they went to Oxford. As they entered the city, they remembered its history. King Charles I had once gathered his army there when the rest of the country turned against him. The memory of the king and others like Lord Falkland and Queen Henrietta made Oxford feel special. Even without this history, the city was beautiful. The old colleges, wide streets, and peaceful river made a great impression. Victor enjoyed the view, but his thoughts about the past and the future made him sad. He used to be happy and full of life. Beauty in nature or art always lifted his spirit. But now, he felt like a dead tree, destroyed from the inside. He believed he would live only to show what a broken person he had become. They stayed in Oxford for some time, exploring places with important history. They visited the grave of John Hampden and the field where he died fighting for freedom. These visits gave Victor a brief moment of hope. He thought about liberty and courage. But this feeling passed quickly, and he fell back into sadness and fear. They left Oxford and went to Matlock. The hills there looked a bit like the Swiss mountains, but smaller. There were caves and natural history museums. When Henry said the name Chamonix, Victor trembled because of the painful memories from there. So, they quickly left Matlock. From Derby, they continued north and spent 2 months in Cumberland and Westmoreland. The snowy mountains, lakes, and fast rivers reminded Victor of Switzerland. He even made some friends who helped him feel a bit happier. Henry enjoyed the journey even more. He loved talking to smart people and learning new things. He told Victor, "I could live here and not miss Switzerland." Still, traveling had its hard parts. Just as Henry began to relax, they had to move again to see new places. Soon it was time to meet their friend in Scotland. They had just started to enjoy the lake region, but now had to leave. Victor wasn't sad about this. He had delayed his promise for too long and was afraid the creature might hurt his family in Switzerland. He waited for letters in fear. When he got a letter from Elizabeth or his father, he was scared to open it. He also worried the monster might attack Henry. Sometimes, he stayed close to Henry like a shadow to protect him. Victor felt as if he had done something terribly wrong, though he hadn't. Still, he had brought a terrible curse on himself. They visited Edinburgh, but Victor felt tired and empty. Edinburgh was beautiful and full of history, but Victor didn't care. Henry liked Oxford better, but still enjoyed the pretty views around Edinburgh. Victor just wanted to reach the end of his journey. They left Edinburgh after a week and went to Perth, stopping in Cupar and St. Andrews on the way. But Victor didn't want to stay with strangers. He told Henry, "Please enjoy yourself here, but I need to be alone. Let's meet again later. I hope when we meet, I will feel better." Henry tried to stop him, but gave up when he saw Victor had made up his mind. Henry asked Victor to write often. "I would rather be with you," he said. "I don't know these people, and I don't feel at home without you." Victor then went off alone to find a quiet place in Scotland to finish the creature. He believed the monster was following him and would appear when the work was done. Victor traveled through the northern highlands and chose a lonely island in the Orkneys. It was just a big rock in the sea, with waves crashing against it. The land was poor, with only enough food for a few cows. Only 5 people lived there, and they were very poor and thin. They had to get fresh water and vegetables from the mainland, 5 miles away. There were only 3 small houses on the island. One was empty, and Victor rented it. It had 2 rooms and was very poor and dirty. The roof was broken, the walls were bare, and the door was falling off. He repaired the house and brought some furniture. The local people were so poor they hardly noticed him. Even when he gave them food and clothes, they didn't seem to care much. Victor worked in the mornings. In the evenings, if the weather was good, he walked by the sea and listened to the waves. The sound never stopped, and it made him think of Switzerland. The island was so different. Switzerland had green hills, nice houses, and peaceful lakes. The ocean here was wild and loud. At first, Victor had a routine, but the work became harder every day. Sometimes he couldn't force himself to enter the lab. Other times, he worked day and night. The work was disgusting. During his first experiment, he had been too excited to notice how horrible it was. But now he felt sick every time he worked. He felt nervous and afraid. He worried that the monster might come at any time. Sometimes he didn't dare look up, afraid to see him. He didn't want to go far from people, in case the monster showed up when he was alone. Still, he continued. His work was almost done. He hoped to finish soon, but he also had a bad feeling. His heart felt heavy with fear about what might happen next. Chapter 20. One evening, I was sitting in my lab. The sun had gone down, and the moon was rising from the sea. It was getting dark, and I couldn't see well enough to work. I sat there, unsure if I should stop for the night or keep going. As I sat thinking, I began to worry about what I was doing. 3 years ago, I had made another creature, a monster. That monster had killed people I loved and left me full of guilt. Now I was about to make another being, a female. But I didn't know what she would be like. She might be even more dangerous than the first one. She could enjoy hurting others just for fun. The first monster had promised to live far away from people. But the new one hadn't promised anything. She might not want to follow that plan. She might even hate the first creature. He hated the way he looked. What if he hated her too? Or maybe she would hate him and leave him. Then he would be alone again and even more angry. Even if they left Europe and lived far away, they could still have children. Children as terrible as the monster himself. What if they created a whole new race of monsters that could destroy humans? I asked myself, do I have the right to do this, just to make my own life easier? Before, I had believed the monster's clever words and his threats. But now I finally saw how wrong my promise was. I felt cold with fear. I realized that people in the future might curse me for what I had done. I was scared, and my heart felt heavy. Suddenly, I looked up and saw the monster at the window. He was smiling horribly and watching me work on the female creature. He had followed me everywhere, through forests, mountains, and lonely places. Now he was here to see if I was keeping my promise. When I saw him, his face looked full of hatred and lies. I suddenly became furious. I thought about the promise I had made and tore the new creature to pieces. The monster saw me destroy her, and he let out a terrible scream of anger and sadness. Then he left. I left the lab and locked the door. In my heart, I promised never to continue the work again. I went to my room, shaking with fear. I was alone. No one was there to comfort me. Hours passed. I sat by the window, looking at the calm sea. Everything was quiet. Sometimes I heard fishermen calling to each other on the water. The silence made me feel even more alone. Then I heard the sound of oars near the shore. Someone had landed near my house. A few minutes later, I heard the door creak. Someone was trying to come in quietly. I was terrified. I guessed who it was. I wanted to call for help, but I couldn't move. I felt like I was in a nightmare. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened, and the monster came in. He shut the door and walked toward me. He said in a low, angry voice, "You destroyed the work I told you to do. What are you planning now? Do you dare to break your promise? I followed you all this way. I've been cold, hungry, and tired. And now you destroy my only hope? Go away," I shouted. "Yes, I break my promise. I will never make another like you." "Fool," he said, "I tried to reason with you, but you don't deserve kindness. Remember, I have power. You think you're unhappy now? I'll make you suffer so much, you'll hate the daylight. You gave me life, but I am your master now. Obey." "No," I said. "Your time is over. I won't help you do evil. I won't create another monster who brings death and pain. Leave. I won't change my mind." The monster saw that I meant it. His face twisted with anger. He shouted, "Every man has someone to love. Even animals have mates. But I am alone. I wanted to love, but I was only hated. You hate me, but beware. You will suffer. I will take away your happiness. You think you can live in peace while I suffer? I may die, but not before I make you feel my pain. You will regret what you've done. Stop," I shouted. "Your words are poison. I've made my choice. Leave me." "Very well," he said. "But remember this. I'll be there on your wedding night." I jumped up and shouted, "Monster, before you kill me, make sure you are safe yourself." I tried to catch him, but he escaped and ran outside. Soon, I saw him in a boat, rowing quickly across the water. He disappeared into the night. Everything became quiet again, but his words stayed in my mind. I wanted to chase him and throw him into the sea. I walked back and forth in my room, full of rage. Why didn't I fight him? He had escaped to the mainland, and I feared who he might hurt next. Then I remembered his terrible promise. "I will be with you on your wedding night." I believed he would kill me then. I wasn't afraid for myself, but I thought of Elizabeth. I imagined her pain if I died. For the first time in many months, I cried. I promised I would not let the monster kill me without a fight. The night passed, and the sun rose. My anger became sadness. I left the house and walked by the sea. I felt like the water was a wall between me and the rest of the world. I even wished I could stay there forever, alone and safe from pain. If I returned, I might be killed or watch the people I love die by the hands of the monster I had made. I wandered the island like a ghost, lonely and full of sadness. When the sun was high, I lay down on the grass and fell into a deep sleep. I was exhausted and had not slept the night before. When I woke up, I felt a little better, like I was human again. Still, the monster's words stayed in my mind like a terrible dream that felt too real. As the day went on, I ate some bread. Then I saw a fishing boat arrive. A man gave me a letter from Clerval asking me to join him. He said he needed to go back to London soon. He begged me to meet him in Perth so we could travel south together. His letter made me feel alive again. I decided to leave the island in 2 days. But before I left, I had to clean up. I had to go back into the lab where I had destroyed the female creature. The thought made me feel sick. The next morning, I gathered the courage to enter the room. The remains of the half-made monster were still there. It looked like I had hurt a real person. I packed up my tools and also gathered the body parts into a basket with stones. I planned to throw them into the sea that night. Then I sat on the beach and cleaned my equipment. Everything had changed in me since the monster had come. Before, I thought I had to keep my promise no matter what. Now I saw clearly. Making another creature would be selfish and wrong. I decided never to do it. At 2 or 3 in the morning, I took the basket out in a small boat. It was quiet, and no one was around. I felt like I was doing something terrible and wanted to avoid people. When the moon was covered by clouds, I threw the basket into the sea and listened as it sank. I stayed on the water, feeling better in the fresh air, and soon fell asleep in the boat. When I woke up, it was already day. The sea was rough, and the wind had blown me far from land. I tried to turn the boat, but it almost filled with water. I had no compass and didn't know where I was. I might die of hunger or thirst, or drown. I was already very thirsty and scared. I thought about Elizabeth, my father, and Clerval. The monster could still hurt them. Many hours passed. Then the wind became softer and the sea calmed down. But I felt very sick and weak. Suddenly, I saw land in the distance. My heart filled with hope, and I cried with joy. Life is strange. Even in great misery, we still want to live. I made a sail from my clothes and moved toward the land. As I got closer, I saw farms and boats. I was back near people again. I found a small town and sailed into the harbor, happy to be safe. As I tied up the boat, people came over. They looked surprised and whispered to each other. I noticed they spoke English, so I said, "Can you please tell me where I am?" One man answered rudely, "You'll find out soon enough. This place may not be to your liking, but you won't have a choice." I was shocked by his unfriendly words. I said, "Why are you so rude? Isn't it normal in England to be kind to strangers?" "I don't know about England," he said, "but in Ireland, we hate criminals." The crowd grew. They looked angry and curious. I asked for directions to the inn, but no one answered. Then a rough-looking man came up, tapped my shoulder, and said, "You must come with me to Mr. Kerwin. He needs to hear your story." Who is Mr. Kerwin? Why do I have to explain myself? Isn't this a free country? Yes, free for honest people. Mr. Kerwin is a judge. A man was murdered here last night, and you need to answer for it. I was shocked, but I stayed calm. I was innocent and could prove it. I followed the man in silence to a big house. I was very tired and hungry, but I forced myself to stay strong so no one would think I was guilty. But I had no idea that a new tragedy was about to happen, one that would be even worse than anything I had imagined.